If you're thinking about buying a home in Portland right now, you probably have a few numbers kicking around your head. Maybe it's your down payment figure, or maybe it's your monthly mortgage payment that you looked up on Zillow. But here's the thing, you might be missing some really important numbers and pieces to the puzzle. It's not like you did bad math or anything, but it's possible that you aren't taking the full financial picture into account. Maybe nobody told you about the thousands of dollars that a buyer will need to pay between an offer acceptance and getting the keys to their new home. So that's what I'm going to break down here today. I'm going to talk to you about all the costs of buying a home in Portland, Oregon in 2026, so you can walk into the process with your eyes wide open. Quick note, if you're planning to buy a home here in Portland, be sure to check out my Buying a Home in Portland playlist. I currently have 57 videos uploaded there, and I add new videos to the playlist each and every week. I think you'll find it super helpful as you get up to speed and get ready to buy a home here. Okay, now let's get into the financial details of buying a home here in Portland, Oregon. When people talk about the cost of buying a home, they usually think of two things: the purchase price and maybe the down payment. But there are actually four distinct buckets of costs that you need to plan for. First is your down payment. Second, your closing costs, which are completely separate from your down payment. Third are your inspections and any due diligence costs related to the purchase of your home. And fourth, you have your moving costs and the immediate post-closing expenses that might hit your bank account the moment you get your keys or shortly thereafter. We're going to walk through every single one. So let's start with the down payment, because this is the one that most buyers have given the most thought to. In Portland right now, the median home price has been hovering around $550,000 for the last few years, but the down payment is really specific to your specific financial picture and goals, and I've seen anything between 0% down and like 90% down. There are several loan types, and each loan type will have its own interest rates and credit score requirements and underwriting requirements. You'll really need to talk to a lender for all the specific details, but that's really a whole nother video in and of itself. So let's talk to the down payments required for the three main loan types. That's conventional, FHA, and VA loans. A conventional loan down payment minimum is 3%, and FHA minimum down payment is 3.5%, and the VA minimum down payment is 0. Now, some lenders might be able to offer you a conventional loan with a second mortgage to get you a 100% loan in essence, but those are specialty programs that you're going to want, again, to talk to a lender about. Just know that 0% down is often available to a lot of buyers, and a down payment can really go up from there. Like I said earlier, I've seen buyers that have had down payments as high as 90%. One thing to know about down payment amounts is if you put under 20% down, you're very likely going to have to pay private and mortgage insurance, and that typically runs you about a couple $100 or more a month. And basically what you're doing is insuring the lender based on the fact that you have a more risky loan and a lower down payment. So that can tack on a few $100 more onto your monthly payment amount, but it really is a great option for those who don't have the money to put 20% down or just want to keep more cash on hand. So here's the cost that can be really surprising for some buyers, especially first-time home buyers, and that's closing costs. I'd suggest you budget around 1.5% to 3% of the purchase price for those closing costs. The closing costs and prepaid expenses really include the lender fees, the appraisal fee, title and escrow fees, recording fees with the county, and prepaid taxes and insurance. A property with an HOA can also have, say, prepaid HOA dues, move-in or move-out fees, or a capital contribution fee included as well. A couple things to note here: if you're getting a loan, your lender, as I just mentioned, is going to require you to pay prepaid insurance and prepaid taxes into an escrow account. They're going to use those prepaid expenses to pay your taxes and your insurance as part of your monthly payment. So while that 1.5% to 3% cost is pretty steep, keep in mind that you are putting a pretty sizable chunk of money and a pretty sizable portion of that cost into an escrow account that is going to be held to pay your expenses moving forward. One more note on closing costs is we can often get the seller to pay a portion or all of your closing costs for you. In fact, I just represented some buyers that closed on a home last week where we got the seller to pay 3% of their closing costs for my clients, which was over $22,000 of savings in their pocket. It's not always possible, but when it's there for the taking, you have the right agent working on your behalf, you can get a lot of savings through the closing costs paid by the seller. The next piece of this puzzle is the cost for your due diligence period. The first thing that you want to budget is for your just general home inspection. That'll run approximately $450 to $750 on a typical property. Depending on what you're buying, you'll want to consider getting some ancillary inspections like a sewer scope, a radon test, a buried oil tank search, and soil samples if necessary. These are all very common inspections here in the Portland area. Those should run you about $300 to $400 as a bundle. Other inspections worth considering are a lead in the water test, a lead-based paint test, and asbestos testing. I'd suggest budgeting about $1,000 for your inspections, though it could definitely get a little bit more expensive depending on what you're buying. If you're buying a condo, it's very possible that you only have the main home inspection, not all those ancillary inspections, but you might want to have someone help you with reviewing your HOA documentation. Your real estate agent in all likelihood will not be a licensed attorney, so they are not allowed to interpret those HOA documents on your behalf. So you can hire people. There is a company here that does it for about $600, or you can also hire an attorney. They're probably going to run higher than that, but it really depends on the attorney that you end up hiring. The final piece for a typical home inspection due diligence period is your appraisal. I did include it in the closing cost piece above when I was talking about that 1.5% to 3% range, but I think it's worth considering here because it is likely a cost that's going to occur prior to closing, and it'll run you probably around $700 to $800 nowadays. Okay, the next piece to your costs when you're buying a home are your moving costs. These can dramatically vary based on where you're moving from and how you're handling your move. It's going to cost you probably at least a couple $100s for boxes and tape and things like that. From there, you can pay for packing services if you want, full service movers, or just have friends help, U-Haul trucks or moves across the country with big national van lines, or moves within the area from professionals, or you can hire people off TaskRabbit or similar resources like that. So these costs really run the gamut from about a few $100s to well over $10,000. It really depends on your situation and what your plan is. So if you want to talk about it, I'd be happy to weigh in about how much I think it might run you. The final piece of this puzzle here on these financial costs of buying a home in Portland in 2026 are things that might come up post-closing. So maybe you buy new construction and you want to put in some blinds, or you have repairs that came up during the inspection period that you want to get taken care of. I also often suggest that you rekey your home, which would probably run about $150 to $250, since you have no idea who has a set of your keys or how many keys have been made in the past for your place. You might also have some improvements that you want to knock out before moving in or just upon moving in, like new flooring or new painting or, just things like that. So that's another thing that you might want to budget for depending on what you're buying. Okay, so in summary, here is what you want to have on your radar as you contemplate buying a home. Number one, your down payment, which ranges, as I said, between 0% down and up from there. So it just kind of depends. Your closing costs are going to run about 1.5% to 3%, but sometimes we can get the seller to pay for a portion or all of that. Number three, your moving costs, which can range from a few $100s to well over $10,000, depending if you're moving locally or across the country. Your inspection and due diligence costs will probably run you around $2,000, maybe a little bit less if you get like an appraisal waiver, for example, or more if you end up buying a house that needs a lot of due diligence and a lot of tests on. And finally, it's good to have a little bit of reserves on hand for your post-moving costs, like rekeying your home or taking care of any pressing repairs or improvements that you want to handle after closing. If you plan on buying here in the greater Portland area and would like to talk through your specific situation, just drop me a line and we can get a budget dialed in for you and help you decide whether now is the right time to buy or not. I think I can save you a lot of time and or just bring a lot of clarity to your situation. I've been working in real estate for over 17 years and generally love helping people get ready to buy and making sure they know exactly what to expect so they're not blindsided by costs that they didn't see coming. Drop a comment below or reach out to me directly for any help. And if you like this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.